Hello. Welcome
We're
to
good.
the second year of the Weekly Boost. No, episode 53. We have a lot to cover today.
That's right.
We're recording this on the 20th of July. We got a really busy 3 weeks coming up. Austin's moving to Oklahoma. I have a trip planned. I have I have books I need to catch up on. Like, we have a lot of things going on in the summer, and that's great.
That's right.
Busy time is great. The Olympics are in full swing right now. We'll get into that. Something just happened in Milwaukee recently, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Green Bay fans are polarized. We'll touch on that.
Yeah.
The trade deadline is Friday. And then we'll get on a more serious note in the second half. But initial reactions to Rodgers and Cobb being back.
You know what? Good. That's really hard to get into without talking about that polarization thing that's been going on, this entire, probably since, the last Packer game. I'd say that there was some sort of angst and kind of,
it's been years in the making.
Something,
sure.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know what? I'm just going to say it because because it's the game of football and it's a game good for the sport. They're back, ready to do it, whatever. And I can see both sides of it, but I'm kind of on Aaron Rodgers' side. I know it's a little bit of an unpopular opinion.
I don't think it is, though. Like, being through the coming of age, so to speak, in the Brett Favre era, and seeing all that, and now what Aaron Rodgers has done for Green Bay. Only one
California
ring,
too,
California,
though, like with his humanitarian
and he's always
and all that sort of
stuff. And he's always been like this personality, quote unquote, like that people either really like gravitate towards or really like pushes them the wrong way. And the people that are like, I don't even care anymore. We don't need them, or like, we don't want them. We don't need this drama or whatever. Like, you don't want the MVP. Like, and he did say he was taking the offseason to work on everything himself. Like, he had the match. He's a part owner for the Bucks.
New relationship
whatever.
Thing.
The thing with like these sports and fans, and I love how passionate fans can be, but it's also like bad looks some of the time. And yes, this isn't a great look for the media and Rodgers and everybody involved, whatever. And I think I've said this, I think this is a good case for the Packers, right? Like, you get Devontae, you get Aaron for at least 1 year, and you kind of play it by ear. I just saw something. I didn't see the video. It was in between while we were recording, that he considered retiring. So who knows? Maybe he goes to a different team. Maybe he retires. Like, we don't know what the future holds, right? Like,
exactly.
Yes, in the sense that like restructuring or, having this deal big 1 year, opens the door for future speculation and really not a lot of trade value for the Packers, right? Because like basically nothing, which in that sense is kind of like screwing over the organization. But in the same breath, it's like, okay, well, at least he's with the Packers for this year. Like, we'll see what happens. Maybe he's like, okay, like I'll restructure another 1 year deal, or I'll like, thank you for what you've given me. I'm going to go whatever. I think there's so many armchair quarterbacking and GM and front office going on. It's like, I wish I could, just not show up to my camp at my job. It's like, okay, totally different thing. Like, top tier athlete versus, somebody else's career, where it's like apples to oranges. But regardless, I think that's, as a Packer fan, and I know like my girlfriend is a huge Randall Cobb fan, like, great. So be it. Like, I'm excited for it. Whatever happens. Doesn't matter, because the Bucks won the finals.
Yeah, exactly, right. And they did it in the prophetic fashion, Bucks in 6.
Twice.
So, twice.
Yeah. Like they beat the Nets in 7, and then Hawks without Giannis
in the last couple of games.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a weird but great time for a Midwestern sports fan, because I don't want to just isolate this to Wisconsin, because you have the same thing going on. You have it going on, in other states similar. They got a bunch of other, drama issues. Team not playing well. Are they going to fire sale? Are they going to keep players? Like, you see that with the Cubs. You see that with all these teams going on. So it's just it's hard to maneuver as a sports fan, and you see something like this where Aaron Rodgers come back to the Packers, with that his stroll. I think the picture that I shared on my Instagram was him in the Office t-shirt, with his Pit Vipers on, walking in. Like, the dude looks like he, hasn't, dropped a beat. Like, he looks like he's ready to just go back out there. Maybe finding himself is what he needed, but like,
who knows, man? Like, they're all people. They're people.
Yeah, like you and I had this great conversation about mental health, and I'm sure we're going to get into it a little bit later about some sort of stuff going on with the Olympics, but realizing that people are actually human and they need some time off, even though that they're in the entertainment business. Yeah. Kind of an important, topic. So we'll talk about that in a little bit.
I talked about it in the last episode with my number one episode, and I won't give too much away, but I'm just so happy for the city of Milwaukee, and as a Bucks fan, like, for everyone involved, scrolling through Twitter, I am so sick of seeing like, oh, Mickey Mouse ring, or this doesn't count because of injuries, or this doesn't, like, that shouldn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, you're the last team standing. Like, regardless of whatever breaks you may have caught from the injury bug on the way there, you can also make the same argument for the officiating in the finals. And I hate relying on like, oh, the ref screwed us, like that rationale for things, because at the end of the day, I think a lot of it teams can overcome through whatever it may be. But as a Bucks fan, like that's exciting. It was an exciting time. I was at home for games 3, 4, and 5, I believe.
Yeah, you were there for
3, 4, and 5.
Yeah,
and then I came back. I was back in Oklahoma for game 6, and man, I was a wreck. And I hate how invested I get, dude. Like, I've just been disappointed for so long. And like, I'm just used to it. And like, maybe that's like a defense mechanism. But really happy they were able to close it out. And, for Giannis too, like, how can you not love the guy? Like, how can you hate him?
Seriously.
Like,
he's one of the most genuine people that you'll ever see.
Yeah, he just wants his court.
Or in life in general.
50 chicken nuggets.
Yeah, not 49, not 51.
Well, and I think it's also important to note with Giannis, right? Great basketball player. He's just a run and dunk guy. Whatever, so be it. Like, maybe not the greatest free throw shooter.
3-point shooter.
Yeah. Yeah. His block, everybody says it's not the same as LeBron's block. It was a pretty significant block. I'm not saying like one's better than the other.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big like series moment.
Turn the tide, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say with him, throughout his journey being a Bucks fan, like seeing him kind of turn into the superstar has been great. Mm-hmm. But I think in the past few years, what's done it for me is he's had pressers where he's like, okay, I'm just going to like turn off the basketball brain. I'm at home. It's family time. Like, and I think that is so like admirable. And, so many times you see NBA players take to Twitter or, I'm not alienating just that, because athletes all over everywhere, and everybody throws shade on Twitter. I think his story is a great one. And also how he's been able to, work through the national media and the things like the unfair hate, some may argue, that he's gotten over the years, the lack of like NBA superstar like praise
surrounds him.
Well, that too. But I'm saying like the praise, like finally they like
I think the biggest thing was the
great
Kobe
job,
Bryant
Giannis. Like,
was the
okay, well, where
Kobe Bryant, the greatness or whatever, like championships next. I think that was like the first that kind of turned the page for him.
Yeah. I think he was able to recognize, Giannis's mentality and how he goes about his business. Yeah. But there's so many of the other superstars that are like throwing shade, like, or I think Harden's a good example of that. And I just, again, this is just like us watching from not a diet. Like I can count on my hand the number of times I've sat down and watched a Bucks regular season game this year. Yeah. Playoffs is obviously a little different because it's playoffs. But where was I? Oh, I just appreciated the personality of Giannis being able to shut off his basketball brain and go about his business at home and as a way of escaping it, and just like, there's your switch. and that's like applicable to everything. And I think that was one of the things that really stood out to me. I don't know when that was from, if it was from this season, last season, year before, whatever it was, but that was a really important thing. And he's 26, like he's a year older than me. And like, he's that
just a little taller too.
I mean, I think I'm still growing. Like,
yeah. Okay. That's fair. You can keep that, hold that to yourself.
but yeah, I hold on to that. At 25, I'm going to, sprout up. But yeah, I think for me, like the personality of Giannis and his work ethic, and I think that was a really a good. I could pinpoint that moment for me that I was like, wow, this is a special kind of guy right now. So
well, and what I want to solidify with this conversation is the underdog. This was like, granted, they had one of the best records in the NBA. Yeah. They're one of the most solid defensive teams in the NBA. Okay. They have all these great things going for them. But what I saw in those 6 games of the NBA Finals was the deliberate and kind of just the concentrated efforts by media to alienate the Milwaukee Bucks and just put on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Devin Booker's Phoenix Suns. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I know that's a pretty hot take for some people because they're like, oh, Devin Booker's great. He's a great basketball player. Not a doubt with his game. But I became less of a fan because of how one-sided the coverage was for this series.
Yeah.
And I'm 60 minutes away from Milwaukee. So it's not like I'm, halfway across the country and like not seeing this and like, oh, well, maybe it's just because nobody really wants Milwaukee to win. Everybody's rooting for the Suns. It's like, no, 50 years in the making that since the last championship, the city has been through travesty, triumph, everything in between. And like, there's this time and opportunity for, this fantastic event. And like, even seeing stuff, I don't know if this is real or not, but like even seeing like Phoenix Suns billboards in the Milwaukee area, like I thought I saw something about it and I don't know if it's real or not.
I'm unfamiliar, but
it was just like, even that, it's like, come on. This is like one of the most pivotal moments in the city's history is, bringing this championship home.
Yeah.
And you don't get a unbiased coverage of it from a national media source. It was noticeable to me and everybody in my household who watched it. They saw it, and it was a pain.
And I don't know if that's like I'm always leery about saying like the national media like loves these guys and not the Bucks or whatever it may be, if it's the Brewers, if it's the Packers, whatever it is, because you are clearly biased towards that organization.
I think they have to be biased to larger markets because it's what draws in the most viewers. And so,
what I'm saying is
smaller market teams are
what I'm saying is I don't understand. Like, I don't know how much bias plays into an actual like beef with media, like, and how do you like go about it unobjectively and saying like, or how do you like say, okay, well, what is considered fair then? Are there an equal amount of segments for each team? Do they say this? Like, it's very hard to kind of toe that line. And I totally understand it because I'm in the same like camp as you. Like, I do get that small markets significantly have less time. Like, Milwaukee's a trash city, whatever they said. Like, who cares? Like, if whatever it may be.
It's annoying, is what it is. I'm not trying to get too like kind of under my fingernails about it and like all that sort of stuff. But
you know what I'm saying, though,
I know what you're saying. And like logistically, they probably thought that it was equal. Like they probably have it on pen and paper, like, okay, X amount of segments, Milwaukee, X amount of segments, Phoenix.
Yeah.
X amount of minutes, whatever. It just, from my perspective, and I know a lot of people taking to Twitter and, Instagram and all these places that get, 50-50 credibility, kind of selections. Well, it was kind of obvious that it was a good majority of the people that I follow, at least, were like, hey, this is kind of not cool. But
and I hate the automatic now. It's like comparing everything to previous finals or like, and that's from like Bucks fans on Twitter. Let's say, like, I don't like the already like defending people that say it's not, or not defending, but like clapping back at people that don't say it's real or anything. Like, just enjoy the moment. Yeah, like, man. Inside your brain that this was an important moment for Milwaukee. Like, yes, they didn't play a full 82, whatever, like injury bug, hits a lot of different people. Look at what happened to Giannis with this hyperextended knee, and everybody like in Milwaukee area and elsewhere like held their breath, like what's going to happen.
I think everybody had a couple of
and I think
missed heartbeats on that one. I think everybody was
throwing stuff around. I just think it's a great moment for the city, and who cares about everybody else right now? Like, just enjoy the moment, and So let's transition here because that's a lot of Bucks talk. I was not anticipating that.
Go Bucks.
Yeah, go Bucks. Ow. Sorry, I dropped a coaster and it's bugging me. Okay, let's talk about MLB trade deadline now because we can save the Olympic stuff for the second half. Trade deadline on Friday. I don't know how much you have kept up with it. There's a Starling Marte's going to the A's as of right now. There's a bunch of other moves that have happened. Nelson Cruz to the Rays.
Big pickup. Remember who I picked the Rays to do something kind of cool.
Yeah. Races have changed since the All-Star break now, in my opinion. Yeah. I think the Yankees are done. So I want to rescind that pick. I didn't have them out of the wild card, but I had them. Like, there's still talk that they might get Trevor Story, and I don't know if that's enough to put them, over the
Mayhew Trevor Story reunion.
Yeah, there's all that speculation. Yeah. Like, I think Trevor Story's wife follows the Yes Network and has reached out to like real estate agents in the New York area. It's like, okay, whatever. And there's like, again, like it's like sifting through all this speculation. Do you think? There was like talks of Bryant to the Giants, Chris Bryant and Joey Bart being involved in the deal, former number 2 pick.
If that would have happened, still would have been, Bryant fan. Guy's a good guy, good dude. Like there's like that solid core of guys in the Cubs that I don't think anybody can kind of raise a finger and be like, hey, they're not. There's some. I will say there's some that draw a pretty, big crowd of haters, and I know exactly that you're talking about. Yeah, and for legal reasons, we will not name them. But like, I see what you're saying, and for me, the trade deadline was always that kind of like that shift, like that. I can't think of the right word. Like remix. Like you're gonna take like 2 great songs, and like kind of remix them together into something new. Like it revitalizes the league. I feel like in a different way because you got contenders getting better. You got sellers selling. It's kind of a cool time
it's
because
always
it's something
interesting
that you don't see too often in other sports because there's deadlines and stuff like that. But like the impact that these players make is like immediate and it's to push the playoffs.
I feel like MLB is a different horse when it comes to trade deadline stuff. Because like when you're renting a pitcher, like there's talks about Scherzer going places to the West Coast.
Yeah, Aroldis Chapman on the Cubs.
Yeah.
One of the greatest examples of a rent a pitcher if you could ever think of. The dude pitches and gets him to the World Series pretty much. In the
and they oversold for him significantly, and the Yankees got him back anyway. They sent Glaber over there.
Oh yeah, and then
but what I'm saying is, I think MLB is very different in the sense that you rent these pitchers. Like Scherzer's going, reportedly the talks going to the West Coast, all these other places.
Yeah,
it's 10 starts. Like you could look at a CC Sabathia type thing in 2008, and it really sends you into the postseason for the Brewers in that case. But I'm excited to see what shakes out here in the next 2 days. There's talks about a deal for Scherzer being done tonight. Maybe it could be done by then. Obviously, I want to see the Brewers make a trade.
Probably won't happen.
Make something. Well, with Yelich on having COVID now, that's another interesting discussion. He's fully vaccinated, so it's one of those breakthrough cases.
Same with John Rahm in the Olympics. Seeing that because that. Sorry, little tangent, but he was diagnosed with COVID when he was going into Sunday of one of the most recent PGA tournaments.
Yeah,
he was in the lead. Has to withdraw because it's diagnosed with COVID protocol, and then a couple weeks later gets vaccinated after recovering from COVID, fully vaccinated up until this point, and then gets tested positive again for COVID in the Olympics. It's just a little. You look at some stuff. It's like probably another instance of those breakthrough cases, but really bad timing for a really great player. Really unfortunate to see, and it kind of makes people wonder about things. And
I don't want to. I don't want to.
I'd focus on his health, make sure he's all right before I'd start saying like, oh, somebody did something and stuff like that. But
I don't want to get into that very much because I think that's a really important discussion that should have its own light as these breakthrough cases, because the vaccinations work. There's no disputing that, and not protecting against mutations now CDC reverses guidelines for masking indoors now. So
that's a
get vaccinated.
That's
get vaccinated.
That's a conversation for another day. But
I hope the Brewers make a move. I don't know who fits best there. Maybe it's a Story. I do want to see Trevor Story.
Is what I'd like to see.
Yeah, I do want to see. Trevor Story's not having the greatest year, but I do want to have. I want to see him move somewhere. I think I was listening to something today that was, Marcus Semien would be an interesting move because the Blue Jays wouldn't have to give up their core.
Yeah.
And they could get a lot for Semien with the year he's having now. And that's a bat. That's a shortstop. He can play other positions in the infield and stuff. And then you still have your Vlad Jr., Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio. Like you still have like your core of young guys that
talk about like these 3 young guys that are all, children of pretty prolific baseball players. Like, isn't that pretty cool?
That's again, like MLB this year for me has like a lot of really strong storylines of, of children of MLB guys, of guys breaking through. I'm excited to see what the Brewers do if they do something, and elsewhere in the league too.
Well,
what do you say? You want to get in the second half here?
Yeah.
We'll put in our wonderful ad break. Remember how bad the other one was?
Yeah, that's so bad.
It's like I'm snort. Whatever. All right.
Yeah.
See you in the back half. All right. So have you paid a lot of attention to the Olympics?
A good amount, yeah.
Decent amount, yeah.
Yeah, probably more than last time around.
I've seen stuff, and I totally agree with this. It's like it's hard to find anything.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
Like, okay, so the Olympic site, NBC Sports, like they all do a great job.
Yeah.
I'll use that loosely because it's it's a good job. Like it's good that they're providing almost every event, right? Like someone I went to high school with is shooting women's trap, and they don't have coverage of that, and like hopefully we'll see if she can qualify for the final, and then I'll be able to watch it. But all in all, okay, so Tokyo's in a weird spot where a lot of the key events are happening as you're waking up in the morning live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And ESPN and other places are sending out notifications saying, okay, like women's gymnastics got silver, or like this so-and-so got this medal or whatever. And then they're playing it back in prime time. Totally okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that should be on NBC. Like that's your prime time, whatever.
Yeah.
But the amount of spoilers ruins the hype of it all. Like, and luckily there's been so much swimming that's been live on primetime or like 8-9 o'clock at night. And I told it like, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But I was talking yesterday, like they should strictly use like USA, let's say, for example, or NBC Sports as their replay place, or just NBC. And it's just like a really, maybe I'm just like complaining about nothing, but like it's difficult to find the live events and they're all grouped together. So like you have to, and I'm using a streaming service. So granted, like it's different if I had cable and I could like see and easily flip through channels. But I feel like if it's a streaming service, like you should have each individual event available there and not lumped together on like, okay, USA is showing table tennis, weightlifting, taekwondo, and others. It's like, okay, well now I have to go into that and look and then go back. Like first world problem. I understand. Like maybe I'm just barking up a tree of nothing, but you know what I mean? Like it has been frustrating that way.
I have maybe a solution. I don't know if you think this could be a solution or if people have proposed this, but why don't we have it before it's like an on-demand Olympic thing? Like we know when this happens and NBC is going to cover it. Why don't they just cover all the events and then have it so it's like a browser guide of like people go through it and like, hey,
I'm gonna look it up quick. Keep going.
I make sure that's not a real thing already. But like, I agree. I don't want to sit down and have to go on NBC Sports and then Peacock and then USA and then back to Peacock just to watch, stuff that I want to watch. Like USA softball didn't really have the opportunity to watch it this year just because, again, the finals game or the medal game was in the morning. I've got stuff I have to do. I can't sit down and watch it, and I know that they'll probably replay it and do all this sort of stuff. But you kind of lose that.
you're like watching it to enjoy it.
It's like, he's like, oh, I already know that they don't come back here. Oh, I already know that, Ledecky loses by, half a second or like whatever. Like it kind of ruins it. But at the same time, that's the struggle of it being an international thing with time zones and different differences in coverages throughout the across the globe. So
and what I'll say now is like it's hard to grow the Olympics that way when you already know what's going to happen. Like that's why you watch the event, right? Like unless you're totally invested in the athletes there, you want to see how it
you want to see
swimming,
it live.
with swimming, right? Like you want to see like the final race and like who gets the medal.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily like the heats leading up to it. Like, yes, like those are important. And I do like enjoy watching that. But like if you're looking on NBCOlympics.com has their whatever, and they have like schedule events, they have a strictly Team USA like highlight thing, which is great. But like I don't know. Maybe I'm just like picky or haven't been exposed to it in 5 years.
It's almost that you have to like turn off all social media, all access to anything.
Yeah.
Let the Olympics happen, and then go back and watch like what you just said, the Team USA highlight thing, like who wins the medals, like like it's almost that. I'm not saying that they're like forcing you to do that because nobody, but it's like an option that as attractive as watching it live sounds.
Yeah,
that one might be viable because you don't, but you have to. The opportunity to force everything out of your life to like, put away social media, put away all these spoiler alert chances. It's kind of difficult, but the other thing that you're talking about with like the qualifying, like watching those, I'm sure that there's finals matches going on for other Olympic sports.
Yeah,
at those times it's
so qualifying.
It's like, but it's like, okay, it's cool that we get to watch these people qualify for the final race or the final event.
Yeah,
but like, if there's a final going on where medals are being awarded, put that on. Like that's like kind of what people watch. Like I'm sorry, like the Olympics in itself, the qualifying stuff is totally over my head. There's no way, that I'd ever be able to achieve any of that level. And I'm not. That's why they're Olympic athletes. They're one one in a billion type people. But like the medal things are what people want to watch, and I didn't tune into NBC Sports to watch the third qualifying heat of the 100-meter free in the pool. I want to watch the final race. That's what I really want to watch. And so put on the finals for the stuff. I think that's probably the better way to talk about it. But
well, and again, like we've said, like maybe this is nothing, but like I've seen like gripes from other people, and again, whatever. It's the ratings are down, and maybe it's because of the format, maybe it's because of lost interest, like whatever. But
I will say one thing quick. Sorry, before why do we feel as a society to interview these athletes right after they just got putting out their maximum performance?
You were.
I just don't get it. You sit there. Like I was watching men's swimming, and our guy won gold, and then one of the races after, first from I think Ecuador. No, I can't remember. I'm sorry about that, but the guy is like breathing heavy, can't formulate a sentence. Like he's just got done,
the race of his life.
8 laps of a 50-meter Olympic pool. And they're like, "Oh, what does this win mean to you?" I'm just happy that I won. Like I don't understand these types of questions and why they have to come right after these people get out of the pool, or right after these people get off the bike, or whatever. Like,
and then you don't see
time and place.
And then you don't see like the aftermath when the adrenaline kind of wears off and you're at the press conference answering questions. Like I totally understand sports reporting and you want to get the raw emotion, like that is important, but right after, like the guy is
soaking wet still. He's literally dripping water. He just took his goggles off, and they're just
like let him process his emotions. And
the guy probably didn't even know he won. It was that fast. Like they didn't even see the time yet.
It was like Joe Rogan with Conor McGregor.
It's just that bugs me, and I see that a lot. It's not in just the Olympics, and it's in a lot of sports too. Or like the really forthright questions that you don't think people need to ask, but they like give the answer. It's like, what does this mean, or what does this win mean to you? It's like,
or did you see when that reporter asked if JaVale McGee's mom is still alive? That was really weird.
Like,
that was weird.
Some weird stuff. Well, and then there were some technical difficulties with one of the interviews where they tried to get their parents and their family at home who was watching.
I can't hear anything.
Just like, it was like 20 seconds of dead sound, like nothing, and it was just awkward. And that they just kept rolling with it, like, oh, we're talking to you. Like, what did they say? And it's like,
they said this. He's like, okay, great. Like, love you guys. Like, I'm gonna go.
I will FaceTime you later when I get done. And
but that all felt like rushed. Like they needed to get it right then and there.
I think it is. It's again, I think just think it out.
NBC does it. Like I'm thankful that they cover the Olympics and everything. It's just maybe some tweaks to that for 2024. 2028 is coming back to LA. 2024 is in Paris, and then so maybe we'll see baseball and softball back in 2028. But I know it's not in.
It's not in Paris.
It's not in Paris, no, because the home country kind of can push for
certain
sports.
They add sports that they want.
So, all right, let's get into the big hot news with Simone Biles, because we've talked about mental health things in the past, and we'll preface by saying this, like, again, these are just our opinions, and I totally understand. I won't say both sides of it, because I don't understand like her perspective. I don't know what it's like to flip through the air like that, like any of this. As an athlete, maybe I can, give something, but also like as a teammate, I think this is an important discussion too. And hopefully it doesn't go too long, but I want to hear what you think, because you seem to be very passionate about this when we've had like preliminary discussion about what this decision means. And we have, I know people that say like she just quit on her team at the biggest stage, or like this was predetermined, or whatever it is. And I think, well, I guess let's just talk about it. Like like she decides to step out of the all-around team competition. Everybody says they would have gotten gold if she just checks the boxes, whatever. Then now more recently she steps out of individual, and again, this is releasing August 9th, I think. So this will be all gymnastics will all be wrapped up. But this is a discussion that transcends past the Olympics,
and I think it transcends sports.
Yes, it's. I don't like the attitude surrounding it, that like this was pre-planned, and that like maybe she was just doing this to just bring mental health to the biggest stage. So it's this conversation. So where do you stand on all of this, and what do you make of it?
So you mentioned that we had preliminary talks about this stuff, and it kind of, I don't want to say it hits home with me, but mental health stuff is not a joke. People battle mental health stuff all the time. And I think we're doing a better job as a society of recognizing and realizing that people struggle, and you can't expect everybody to go out there with their A game every day. And this is probably a prime example of that. You have, not even arguably, you have the greatest athlete of all time in gymnastics, in small class. Most decorated, most just prolifically good gymnastic athlete. And that comes with obvious stuff. It comes with media recognition, kind of the idea that you have to be the best at all the time. And if somebody becomes better than you, then they dethrone you as the GOAT, and you're kind of forgotten about or whatever. And great, that's great stuff. It's good for the sport, good for just sports in general, maintaining somebody as the GOAT and kind of talking about that. But we do that almost in a way that, I don't want to say dehumanizes, but we neglect the idea that these people are individuals, and that nobody on this earth, regardless of like how you think this could be true, is perfect. Nobody can go out there every day and give 100%. And if they could, they're a programmed robot, and like that's just not, that's just not feasible for a human. And so, yeah, it stinks. that we didn't get to see Simone Biles perform and probably clutch up and be, even more solidified as the, like the GOAT in gymnastics. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you got to see something happen that, she's standing up for herself, taking, the mental health break that she so desperately needs, because I can't even imagine how much of a pedestal that she feels that she's been placed upon just for being the best at what she does. And that comes with the territory. Now, granted, it's a completely different argument because, not everybody can be an Olympic athlete. Like these people, you hear the argument, like they should know that this is coming because they decided to train and train and train, and delegate their entire lives to this stuff. Well, yeah, they do that, but nobody expects to be perfect in doing this. People have off days, and it just so happens that this time, like, something just didn't sit right. She didn't feel right. But what I don't like is that they called her a quitter.
Yeah,
because okay, she withdrew herself from competition because of whatever reason. But from what I saw from media coverage of the events and all that sort of stuff, she still supported her teammates.
We were just talking about this Olympics being delayed. Like, you hear about this, you heard about it, and it was this development throughout the. Wow, can I get my hand closer to the camera? You heard about it throughout the day. Like, you see, Simone Biles is out with an injury, and then it turns into it's not a physical thing, it's a mental thing, and then we get a chance to actually watch it because of the replay, and I watched it, and you can, and because the commentators are live while they're doing this too, which is they're trying to make sense of it as well, and it's this huge stunning thing that happens. She comes out and she's like, the mic wasn't on her, but like you could see, like, she's just like not in it. And she comes out and she's like, do you guys need anything? Like, I'll go run and do it. Like, she was there for her teammates. Like, yes, she withdrew, not using the word quit, because she still stayed there. But all the people that are saying like, well, she, ruined the dreams of another gymnast by whatever, like, that's what alternates are for as well. Like, you're telling me that she obviously seemed like she was ready and prepared and ready to go there, and was the oldest of this group, and was a really important leader. And you see like the love that comes out of like their tweets about it. Like, and she has been under pressure for probably her entire life, right? Like, she's younger than I am. I think she's 24. 24. It's like, and she's been through so much at USA Gymnastics too. And she turned into the head of this now, that like underwent the bad things that happened in that organization, that like they didn't really listen to their athletes, and now like to have this. And I think the general consensus in the athletic community is that they're in support of this. Like, Michael Phelps has been vocal about it. All these other athletes are saying like, you don't know what it's like until you've been there. And they're like comparing like, oh, this is like if LeBron would walk out on Game 7 because he's not mentally like there or whatever. I think it's a totally different thing. Yeah. I think it's, in that case, you have your teammates to score buckets, even if you're having an off night. But this, like, you're putting your body in danger. Like, in her scores, her difficulty is different from the competition, because like, it's so like she's at a different tier. Yeah. I think all of these things, like the immense amount of pressure that is on her, we can't fathom. Like, as you and I, even let's say in the conference tournament, right, in a D3 baseball game, nothing against D3, we both played it. Yeah. Like, it's totally different than the Olympic stage, being the greatest of all time, doing it another time.
Yeah.
And now she's not like there. Like if this happens to someone that wasn't the favorite, let's say, it's still a big deal to take a mental health break. Like, yeah. I think I've had a chance to kind of reflect and think about it, because initially you're like, oh my goodness, like, she quit on her team. And then you like unpack it and you think like, okay, she didn't, like, in the most traditional sense of the word, yes, she is not competing with her team after starting competition. Fine. She quit, quote unquote. But she's doing something that didn't put herself in danger. She's still supportive of her teammates. She's like, you guys are going to, kill it, like, whatever. Yeah. I don't know. That's just kind of where I stand. And again, like, our opinions, take whatever you like. If you agree with them, great. But I just think this is a greater, more, sorry, Ben, pass off the mic. It's like this big conversation though about normalizing mental health, like talking about it, and you're absolutely right. It's gotten better in the last few years. The danger that I hope doesn't like turn into is everybody says, oh, we're raising soft people now, right? Like
Yep.
they hate our country anyway. They didn't want to represent it, like all this stuff. And collectively, as a generation, let's say, people are getting softer. I hope that people can take that and actually think critically about it,
Mm-hmm.
and not you. And how do I want to say this without like coming off as like a jerk or not seem, because that's not what I intend at all. I hope people take it seriously, but don't abuse it. Like, don't abuse saying like, oh, I need a mental health day, and make it a mockery in the sense like of an excuse for being lazy. You know what I mean? Like, mental health is a super serious thing. Everybody goes through their own ups and downs of good days, bad days, and things. But don't use that as a cop out because you don't want to do something. That's what I like. And I don't want that to come off as like, oh my gosh, you don't take it seriously. No, absolutely not. What I'm saying is I don't want it to become a joke in society where it's like, oh, okay, I need a mental health day.
Yeah.
And then people just like take that and run with it on both ends.
Yeah.
Yes, on both ends. Like one, it's like, okay, I'm going to take, 4 mental health days this week and only show up to work one day because I'm going through a really rough patch. If you are, that's perfectly fine, but don't use it as a way of like that. That's my take.
I see that, and I see that fear. Like, I understand it because there's obviously that two-sided, the coin of it. Like, one is like you want to authorize. You also want to go like support the idea of this. So at the same time, you don't want it to get abused, which I think happens with a lot of stuff. Like, we were just talking about like the history of the past pandemic and like what's going on with employment and stuff like that, and like the idea that unemployment is paying more than people's like than jobs would be paying, and like using that as like okay, I'm gonna live off unemployment instead of finding work. Well, the original intention of unemployment is not for a sustainment of 36 months or whatever long people are looking. Like, there's just not that. That's not what the intention is for. And you see that people abuse it, and then when people need it, it's like
it's not there.
Because these other people did this the wrong way. Now you're punished for it. It's like
that's what I'm saying. That's a really good example. Because I
solidify that.
Because like we have talked about this in the past, like with the whole Giannis thing that I did earlier in this episode. Like, it's important for your mental health to be able to switch off your draining thing and go and do your other thing and have these boundaries. Well, for her, like, there obviously has to be something going on mentally with pressure. Like, do you really think that she would forego an opportunity for another gold because she had this like whole moment staged and planned? Like, I just think that's a really bad argument.
That's really far-fetched in my opinion. Like,
really bad conspiracy.
The same thing too. It's like, do you think she dedicates the past 3, 4, 5 years since the last Olympics,
and it's a year later too?
Of her life to kind of just sit there and be like, so it was all staged anyway. I just don't. That's really, really far fetched to me. And I don't want to say you can solidify it as like mental health kind of awareness and like. But I don't see how you can suppose that she wasted 5 years of preparation just to forego this stuff because it was planned. Like,
especially after, like, because gymnasts too. Like, I haven't been there, but individual accolades have to be like awesome to achieve, right? Like, and team things too. But as when you are the one out there doing it on your own, like your floor routine or whatever it is,
that's like, you in the mat. That's you on the floor.
She was already considered the greatest of all time. Like, she's back at the Olympics because she wanted to compete, and it's a year later.
She could have stopped doing it and still would be considered the greatest of all time until somebody 50 years later, maybe not even.
Who knows?
Like, probably longer could do something similar.
But I just think this could be an opportunity to normalize this even further. I just don't like the people on Twitter or the ones that saying she quit on her country and all this stuff are the same ones that don't support the women's national team for, whatever they may say out off the pitch. And, it is what it is now. And I hope that she's able to, find peace of mind and work through whatever she's going through and she said she was going to take it one day at a time, and who knows, like, maybe that was just bait for the media, but like, mental health is something that, you wake up in the morning and sometimes it's not great. And the best part about it is you have all day to, make changes and do things. But, well, do you want to kind of wrap it up there?
Yeah, I think this is a good...
This is an ongoing conversation for sure. But again, like this is one of the biggest stories to come out of the Olympics so far.
For sure.
Where I'm anxious to see how it kind of shakes. What is the closing ceremony? The second half, I think it ends on, I think closing ceremony is the 13th. No, Sunday, the 8th. It'll be done. So we can look at the medal count and see where we're at and everything.
I think we've been up there top 3, I think, the entire competition. I think it's
the first day they didn't get one. So the first day it was
ROC, and then Japan we're all up there in the
right now. As of right now, the United States has 31 total medals and 11 golds. The 11 golds is third, and 31 looks to be number 1. Australia in the pool has been
oh
great.
My goodness, can they swim?
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible to watch.
Yeah. Next week we're going to go back to pod decks and incorporate that, and then we'll go from there. But by the time this is out, you'll be in Oklahoma. So we'll see you next week.